Welcome back. Jacqui and West Ham's Iain Dale are still with us in the studio. And also, Dr Amir is here to give us a perspective from Bradford and how excited they are. Oh, quick!
I'm so sorry.
Honestly, you're not Kate Garraway.
Could well have been a text from me.
It's my mum.
It's your mum saying, say well done to West Ham fans.
Of course. She said,
it's his mother saying, put a tie on.
You can talk.
You've got other things to talk about, though,
Yes.
haven't you, Dr Amir, other than West Ham? She said somewhat hysterically.
Let's start with this injection. I know you were talking to Charlotte about it in the news. It's obviously something that our viewers are going to be looking at this morning thinking, goodness me, this sounds like it could be something that could really help. How does it work? What are the side effects? What's the cost?
Yeah, so it's called Mounjaro, and it's been around for a while, and we've been using it to treat people living with type 2 diabetes because it gives hormones, essentially, that increase insulin production, which brings your sugar down. Right. Now, what makes this injection different to the previous once-weekly injections that we've talked about before is that it contains 2 hormones instead of 1. So the GLP-1 hormone, which those injections do have, they slow down the movement of food in your gut, so they keep you fuller for longer and suppress your appetite. But this has an additional hormone called GIP, which turns off the hunger signals in the brain, so you end up eating less and you lose weight.
So as well as tackling type 2 diabetes, it could be a way of controlling obesity.
It could be. It's not licensed for that yet, and anyone prescribing it for that purpose is doing it off licence, and NICE are looking at it to see whether it can be approved for NHS use for that purpose. Currently, it is approved for type 2 diabetes, not yet for weight loss.
So this would be very helpful for those struggling with obesity. We know the health impact. Yesterday, we were talking about figures surrounding the NHS that suggested, I think it was something like £1,300 a year it cost the NHS to treat those who are obese on top of the other costs that they might be. So for everybody, it seems positive. Where's the catch?
Well, the catch is there are some side effects. As with any medication, really, there's side effects. The short-term side effects, some people may get tummy pain, nausea, diarrhea. There might be, in very rare cases, there can be a case of pancreatitis or kidney failure. But we don't know the long-term side effects of these drugs because they haven't been around long enough for us to know that. But we do know, the benefits at the moment outweigh the risks.
Talking and staying with obesity, comments today that we should not talk about people being fat because it places them with a stigma. Also, the combination of the confusion between BMI and inherited fat. So instead, we should call this illness chronic appetite dysregulation. This is Dr Margaret Steele from the School of Public Health and the University College in Cork. Yeah, and it was being reported in the Times. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I certainly don't think we should be calling anyone fat. That is an offensive word, and it doesn't reflect kind of the complex nature of being overweight. I think obesity is a medical term, so we can use it in the medical sense. And I think what we need to do is stop shaming people who are living with obesity. It's a chronic illness. It's a very complex illness. It's not just a case of eating less and moving more. There's so much more complexity involved. There's a big part of that is genetics. A lot of it is psychological.
Is it genetic? Because there have been people on this show who've said that is a useful excuse. And
no, it's not an excuse.
Genetic is because your parents might be overweight. That's to do with inherited bad eating and exercise habits. But you say, no, there's a medical situation.
Absolutely. It's estimated between 40 and 70% of the cause of obesity is genetics. So that is factual. So anyone coming in and saying it's an excuse is incorrect. But also there's psychological components, your relationship with food, environmental, socioeconomic, whether you can afford to eat whole, nutritious food, because processed food is cheaper, it's nutrient poor, but calorie dense, and people now, particularly during a cost of living crisis, where they may not be able to afford whole foods, are going for processed packaged food, which appeal to them, and it's cheaper.
Iain, do you think phrases like chronic appetite dysregulation and comments like this help the conversation?
Well, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Because even though you've just said it, I can't actually remember what you've just said. You are right. I mean, obviously, there are lots of people who are overweight. So I've used the word overweight as opposed to fat because of the way that their bodies are constructed. It can be genetically, there are genetic reasons for that. But there are plenty of people, and I am one of them, who are overweight because they eat too much and they don't exercise enough. And I just think if you tiptoe around this issue with some people, it doesn't actually help. In fact, it makes it worse. Because if you sort of regularise it and just say, well, it's perfectly normal to be overweight, and as I say, for many people, it is, but for many people, it isn't. And some people will react better to effectively being shamed, if that's the word that we want to use, and for us to call a spade a spade.
Jacqui, you run an NHS trust, of course, and as Kate was saying, it's costing an extra £1,300 per patient that is overweight for the NHS. I mean, it's a huge cost to the NHS. You see things that Amir's talking about, a drug that is used for something else actually maybe having an impact and a benefit. I mean, that has to be a good thing for the costs of the trust that are desperately trying to cope with overwhelming demand at the moment.
It's one of the biggest problems that we face because it brings costs to the NHS, because it brings costs to individuals. So I actually agree with Iain. I think, you know, I'm overweight and I need to take action in order to be less overweight.
No, you're not.
Because, very kind of you, but you're wrong. So that has an impact on my... that has an impact on my health, which then has an impact on
Can I ask a question then to both of you? Because you've both said that... it's not my take on this, I don't think you are necessarily, but you know your body's better than me. You've both said you're overweight, you both know the scenario. Why aren't you doing something to combat that? If you both... a genuine question. I don't want to suggest that you are, because I genuinely don't think you are. Not something I've thought.
I think we both are.
Sorry. I'm on one of these jabs that Amir's talking about, not this new one, but one of the others, which is meant to suppress my appetite because I've got type 2 diabetes. Now, I've been taking this for several years now. Once a week, you sort of stab yourself in the stomach and it's fine. I don't know whether it has really worked.
Reduced your body fat oil?
Is it helping your diabetes?
Well, you would hope so.
It's regulating it.
But in the end, I am the master of controlling my diabetes, and over the last 3 months, I really have done it. But it flexes. Sometimes you've got it under control, and other times, if you're in a stressful working environment or whatever's going on in the rest of your life, it does affect what you do. But my blood sugars are now, on an average day, in range 80 to 90% of the time, which Amir will say, well, it should be 100. It's actually impossible, I think, to be 100%. But 3 months ago, it would have been between 30 and 50%. So I've done things to get it under control.
I think this narrative I do agree, you know, that there is an element of willpower, but I think saying willpower alone is very simplistic when it comes to weight. And I don't think it's normal to be overweight. I think we have to do more to get people into a healthy weight range. But I think talking about it in simplistic manners as saying, well, I just eat too much. And there's limited evidence regarding exercise and weight loss, actually. It's a lot more to do with food than it is exercise. And so I think we've got to look at the root causes. And a lot of that is psychological. It'll be about your relationship you have with food, what you had growing up, what that was like. All of that are the root causes. But we've got to do something about processed food. Processed food is such a big problem for us right now.
Go on, Jacqui.
I was going to just say I am doing something about it, but no, I twisted my ankle about 6 weeks ago.
Well, you are running, you do your park runs.
No, but you see, I haven't been running for the last 6 weeks,
you've
and I have felt the difference. And actually, I know Amir's right. It isn't exercise that helps you to lose weight, but exercise helps you to feel better about yourself and have more control over what you're eating. And
it makes you healthier. Exercise does improve your health.
I'd love to know your view on a debate we're having later in the programme, whether you think it's appropriate to put kisses, XXX or whatever, on the end of a work email or a text because of a case that was actually found to be unfounded and thrown out eventually, that was brought by somebody who felt that it was inappropriate and made them uncomfortable. Are you an XXXer, Iain?
I am, but
the messages you send me are very affectionate.
He's got to stop that aubergine emoji.
You should see the ones I send Amir. I think if you put like 10 X's, that is probably a little bit inappropriate. But I'm thinking of people that do them to emails to me. Adam Bolton, former Sky News, always ends an email with an X. David Cameron always ends an email with either 1, 2 or 3 exits,
Wow.
Depending on how much
depending
trouble
on how
you're in.
supportive you've been to him.
Oh, really?
No, that's a joke.
But do you gauge it? If suddenly there wasn't an ex there from one of the people that has previously,
Yeah.
would you think, oh, wonder what's going on there?
Yeah, I'd think I'd lost their friendship probably. I mean, I don't do it on every email, but I do it on some emails. I don't mean anything by it.
Is there parameters in your business, Jacqui, in the NHS, where have you got to be conscious of that?
I think you do have to be conscious of it. I mean, Iain told me off yesterday because I sent a one-word email and there were no kisses on it. And usually there would have been. But, you know, I think in the workplace you do just have to be careful. I would not think it was appropriate for me to put kisses on most of the work emails that I...
What about you,
It's a work
Dr.
email.
Amir?
It's not
I put them on all my work emails. All of them. Even if it's the first email I send someone, it always ends with a kiss. Always. And I've never got into any
like to
trouble
spread
so
the
far.
love.
Yeah,
You've got to establish the
absolutely.
relationship
I'm a lover,
early
not a
doors.
fighter.
Well,
Yeah.
there is
Right.
one way you can try and control your weight, by the way,